In what was a secret to absolutely no one, a reimagined PlayStation Plus is on its way in June, in an attempt to rival the mightily successful Xbox Game Pass. As per all the leaks and rumours, this means PlayStation Plus going into a tier system, giving players the choice of where they want to go. So is it any good? Is it worth the money? Does it actually come anywhere near to being a PlayStation alternative to Game Pass? And ultimately, is there any point to it? Before we get into the actual video, first of all, the gameplay. I thought, as it's a video about PlayStation Plus, we're going to have a look at what the monthly games are this month, and we'll play one of those. SpongeBob. So that's the gameplay. It's not in a great place at the moment, PlayStation Plus. It's not had a great few months recently. But enough about who lives in a pineapple under the sea. What is this new PlayStation reboot all about? So as I said earlier, from June it will go into 3 tiers. There'll be Essential, Extra and Premium, as well as a deluxe tier for certain markets. Essential, starting off with those, is basically the bottom and the cheapest of these 3 tiers. And it's basically what you get now with Plus. The 2 or 3 monthly games, the discounts, the cloud storage, etc. Same price as Plus is currently so £50 a year or $60 and euros. Now it's the next 2 tiers where things start to change a little bit. So starting with the Extra tier, which is, as you probably would have guessed, in the middle. And it combines the essential benefits with up to 400 PS4 and 5 games that are available to download. The cost of this tier will be £84 or $100 or €100 for the year. And then finally you have the Premium tier, which adds up to 340 additional games on top of what is offered across the below tiers, including PS3 games via cloud streaming, classic games from PS1, PS2 and PSP, which will all be available for either download or through streaming. There will also be the time-limited trials available in this tier, similar to what is offered on Game Pass or EA Play. Now if you were to go with the Premium tier, as you would expect, it would not be particularly cheap, coming in at £100 a year, $119 or €119. This will work out to roughly £13.49 a month in the UK. There is also a deluxe tier which is available in markets where cloud streaming is not really possible, which will be a slightly cheaper alternative to Premium and will offer certain classic games for download. So, does this new PlayStation Plus compare well with Game Pass? Now, those of you that have been in the PlayStation ecosystem for long enough will probably have realised what Sony has done here. They've essentially put PlayStation Now, their not particularly successful streaming platform, and merged it with PlayStation. In a way, even regardless of the threat of Game Pass, this did really make sense for Sony. PlayStation Plus has been somewhat successful, whereas PlayStation Now never really took off, and by merging the two together and selling it under the Plus brand, it will most likely bring a lot more players to the services that PlayStation Now currently offers. Now, as I've already mentioned, and it really goes without saying, that anyone that would be looking at the new tiers, the Extra and Premium tiers, are going to have to pay extra to what they are now. The price gap between Extra and Premium themselves is not too massive, however the gap from Essential, which we are paying right now, to those tiers, it's fairly large, and therefore there needs to be a decent incentive for us to do so. The key difference maker to whether this will be successful will be the games that are included. We have already been made aware of Miles Morales and Returnal being included in the 400 or so PS4 and 5 games, which are 2 of the best Sony releases in recent years. But this list of games will need to be announced to sway players, and it will be massive in deciding whether this new tier system is ultimately successful, and that of course includes the classic games. There is also the question of what the reliance is on streaming games in terms of the premium tier. When it comes to PS3 games, it seems like all of them will be streamed. The classic catalogue, it just says, will be a mix. It'll be interesting to see how much of a mix this actually is, and if it's too far in favour of cloud streaming, whether that will put some people off. Cloud streaming seems to be the apparent future of gaming. Sony have been looking into it for a while, and PS Now was actually one of the first forays into streaming, even if it didn't get too far. Microsoft are also now heavily looking and investing into cloud gaming. But as much as that is where we are heading, how far we are to ultimately getting to that point is still a massive question mark. You have an additional special tier dedicated to countries and regions where cloud streaming still isn't feasible, and that is obviously for a reason. Even in the areas with the desired capabilities, the internet can be incredibly temperamental. For example, my internet on paper can easily stream games. For the most part, it performs as well as it should, but every now and then it doesn't. I'm still no more confident in it and would always choose to download or own games the old school way over the streaming alternative. But as I've referenced already in this video, the key question everywhere will obviously be where it compares when looking at Game Pass, and there are 2 areas that are a bit glaring. Number 1 is the price. For the price of the top tier of Xbox Game Pass, which is Ultimate, you can only actually get the middle tier of PS Plus. The premium tier is £2.50 a month more than Game Pass Ultimate. And at a time where a lot of the world are facing a rise in the cost of living, there is a possibility that some may just disregard this. And then there is glaring issue number 2, the lack of day one games. The thing that makes a Game Pass so utterly ridiculous is the fact that, as well as a massive back catalogue, multiple day one games, both first and third party, release on the platform day one. Heck, even MLB The Show did last year and is doing so again this year, and that's a game made by a PlayStation studio. Sony, they're not offering this. And when you also throw in that Game Pass includes EA Play within it, the quantity and price both still favour the Microsoft subscription quite comfortably. However, what Sony did was never going to properly rival Game Pass. It was done to close the gap to it slightly and to acknowledge the world's movement towards a subscription platform. However, Sony are not offering this. And when you also throw in that Game Pass includes EA Play within it, the quantity and price both still favour the Microsoft subscription quite comfortably. However, with all that being said, whatever Sony did, it was never going to properly rival Game Pass. All they did this for was to close the gap to it slightly and to acknowledge the world's movement towards subscription platforms. As I said in the very first video on this channel regarding the Activision takeover from Microsoft, Sony are not Microsoft. They cannot afford to chuck as much money in this for as little price as Microsoft can. PlayStation Plus was never going to add day one releases, at least not without there being a substantial price on it. PlayStation have said this themselves, it is not their model and they cannot make money from games essentially being given away as part of a £10 a month subscription. And with people still more than happy to spend the money and support the developers the old school way, that was always going to be the case. Overall, this was a change Sony may as well make, and it does offer more for those on PlayStation. Doesn't match Xbox, but that was always realistically out of the question. Is it actually worth the price? Honestly, I don't know. A lot will depend on the list of games available and whether it is just a carbon copy of PlayStation Now or not, but we will see that in due time. But no matter what they did, Sony was always going to get pelters for this one way or the other, I felt. They were never going to be able to win. Microsoft have successfully changed the way games can be played to suit them, and it's not a game that Sony really wanted to play. But they have made their move, and it's one of consolidation more than anything. So will you be going for one of the new tiers, or do you think it's a heap of shit? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.